another person on their telescope. So you and your telescope is looking at the telescope, and another person in their telescope looking back at you.
That felt very complicated.
It was.
Talon coming out the gates once again.
Like this composition.
Yes, I don't know if it's complicated.
It somewhat is, because you do need a lot of moving pieces to make this work together quite well. And for Giant LYNX to actually have a much better composition to deal specifically against or with a quad DPS on the other side.
That being said, it doesn't mean that they will deal with it, and there's going to be the pressure already coming down. Oh man, that feels like so many missed opportunities there, but at any rate, the pressure is slowly starting to close in on Giant LYNX.
And it's the box that's closing as well. Giant LYNX are backed into a corner right now. They've vacated the point. Talon Esports are capping.
Yep, there we go. The levy breaks, and then everything starts to flood through. Nice sleep on the Bashful, that's something, but Luminous A is going to be the last casualty here. This should just be the point capped pretty cleanly.
And that's the power of the Widowmaker. You threaten the kills, and we know NN can actually get those kills, but even if you are not actually taking members down, you're forcing them to move, you're putting them into really bad places on the map, and then the rest of your team, the other 5 members, capitalize, and that's basically what happened. EMP ready to go. Talon Esports ready to double cap.
Got the EMP, that should just be all they need. Does get detected, but I mean, they can't actually do anything about it. There's going to be the EMP layered down, nicely done on top of the 3 tanks. The supports don't have any ultimates to answer anyway, so it didn't matter that you don't catch them. Gagora gets 2 with the Dragon Blade. Haven't seen one of those in a while. Gong rings out. They've still got a Rocket Barrage coming up if they need it, but they're not going to. Over 6.5 minutes. That might be one of the fastest caps we've ever seen here on Horizon Lunar Colony. Yeah,
it's totally overkill, as you like you mentioned there. More ultimates coming online. My goodness, I've missed Dragon Blades. Can we go back to a Dragon Blade meta with Genjis?
Yeah.
6:32 means they've capped out in 1:28. So that's one of the better. In fact, that may be the fastest time we've seen on Horizon so far in the season.
Lab.
It might be one of the fastest times we can see in general. It's absolutely disgusting.
Speed run. It's my speed run of Giant LYNX. We're going to have to see if these other top teams...
It's not any percent though, it's 100%.
Yeah, 100% speed run of Giant LYNX. Well record. Well, we're going to have to see if any of the other teams could maybe match that speed run, or if the time will stand. At any rate, now Giant LYNX on the offense. We'll have to see if they can actually push us into a time bank of some sort.
And I'm really interested to see what kind of defense this is going to be. Talon Esports right now.
Oh my gosh.
This might be real. It's going to be... okay, so usually you may see a Bastion here instead of possibly either the Ashe or the Junkrat. But with this kind of composition, you have a lot more fluidity, than the Bastion, which kind of forces you to be stuck in one position. This one you can move around a little bit better, so that's quite nice.
I like that it's called a coach gun. Like, I know why, but I like to imagine that it is like a gun that teaches other guns how to be guns. And that is all.
And that gun is, ironically, not a very good gun.
Yeah, I mean, it's well, that's right.
Don't really know what kind of lessons.
That's right, it's the coach. It's not the star quarterback, it's just the coach. You know, it failed, it's given up on its dreams. Best it can do now is teach someone else how to win.
Speaking of fail, is this 3-3 running into a Junkrat might be problematic. And for Giant LYNX, they may want to change, specifically, possibly the Ryan. I say that, but if they take too much damage going in, the Winston's not going to be a lot of help as well. But Giant LYNX are going to make that swap anyway.
Actually going for a dive comp here, and I do like this. This feels like it could be what they need.
Yeah, so the anti-dive is somewhat there as well. Note that because you're running into a Junkrat and a Hog, if you get caught by a hook, or, you know, a concussive mine or something, you can lose members quite quickly.
That's the thing, they got so much displacement. They've got the mine from Junkrat even does it. You've got the Halt, you've got the hook, and you've got a lot of spam damage, some AoE damage as well. This is very deadly.
And if it's not enough, you even got a res. So if someone does go down, unfortunately, and your Mercy's still alive, you're still in a good position.
Man, never realized how much I wanted to see a Puto on Ashe. This is a fair brawl up on this high ground, but honestly, it's not any casualties coming out for Talon. It's going to be one, but that'll get res before too long, and a Puto is just on fire.
He's also putting Giant LYNX on fire too with the dynamite. There's a fun flavor part about this, and for Talon Esports, because
very thematic.
Because they're not losing more members. The problem here is Giant LYNX not only have to get trades, they have to get more than one. They got to get another member down, such that the res can't be effective enough on multiple members. Talon Esports, if they just lose one member, well, they're back to 6.
Someone who knows more about firearms than me, can you answer? If you shoot dynamite, would it not just be dynamite, but now with a hole in it? Actually make it explode? I don't know.
I will try it after the broadcast.
Let's not. At any rate, that's going to be a decent biotic grenade, but again, the follow-up not really there. The spam damage is still a bit too much, and even with all this pressure on Muse, it actually just means the DPSs have free reign as they're starting to get more and more kills on the board. Even if one of those tanks went down, there'd be a res there. So Giant LYNX, I mean, I feel like even the target prioritization is off base. That's to say nothing of the lack of kills.
And this is where this composition can really shine versus the Bastion version, where, again, with the Bastion, you'd be stuck in one space. With Talon Esports, once that dive actually does start to connect and you do feel the pressure of it, you can back off a little bit. You can give a little bit of space back, continue the spam damage, continue damaging as you're moving backwards, kite around, and Giant LYNX will never truly catch up, not in terms of damage, not in terms of members. And definitely, right now, not in terms of ults.
Let me handle it.
Yeah, we're nearly looking at the full 6. Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree. I don't know the next line of the song. Something about branches. But at any rate, this is, I mean, this is just going to be a tough ask for Giant LYNX, right? Even with a Nano Blade coming in here,
they have 1 minute to get rid of a lot of ultimates. If this was at 2-minute mark right now, they possibly could be doing this, but they're nearly looking at their last attempt, possibly about 2 attempts left. So in this push, if they lose, which is likely, they need to get a lot of ultimates out of Talon Esports. But because they actually haven't initiated yet, they're going to run out of time.
I mean, they got the supercharger out. That's something. It feels like they're waiting for the EMP, but you can't just wait that long for that.
Nano burst.
The Nano Blade. Do get in. That's a decent start, but immediately, absolutely necked by a tire. Bob's coming out onto the side of the point. The pressure is in. Gagora gets woken back up. That whole hog was interrupted, but this is still a lot of pressure on the point. EMP now finally committed self-destruct. Lay it in. Picks up 2. That is CQB, which means no res. Now it's just onto Bashful and in. Bashful down. And it is going to be Giant LYNX breaking through. It has just barely worked for them.
Now this is the thing. Talon Esports don't have a good composition against the self-destruct, so if their members are caught in a bad place, that's bad news. Also, the EMP can be quite deadly as well. A lot of low HP bars there. When you take away the abilities, when you take away the defensive capabilities as well, Talon Esports are put in a bad spot.
Now on the defense, Apudo going to shift over to Soldier 76. This man is just reliving his DPS heyday, it feels.
Yeah, this is not even the buff version. This is the 19 damage version. Of course, we're on patch 1.32. Apudo realizes that. Oh, he doesn't.
Nope, just changing sides. He's baiting us more than anything.
Gagora's playing D.Va.
Yeah, that's the something, but he is out of the mech, so he might as well not be right now. And this is actually a big opportunity for Giant LYNX. Bashful down. Apudo with the bio grenade means he's not getting anything from this healing field right now. It's going to take a lot of pressure. Gagora goes down. Apudo low, running back to base. Muse barely stays alive. Apudo knows he's got to come back out on something that can sit on that point itself. But even then, they're not going to get there. We got a time bank, boys.
Talon Esports, that's kind of the problem when if you do lose A with that kind of composition, you make a lot of swaps, which means the winning team of that A point fight, which is in this case the attackers here, get to roll on to B with that ultimate advantage already charged. On this defense, they had absolutely nothing. Apudo starting on the Soldier, probably not ideal. If he was on the Zarya, that might have gone a little bit differently. This is one of the few times, and actually the first time so far in the series, where the off-base compositions being run by Talon Esports kind of hitting a little bit of a brick wall here yeah, definitely for the first time.
And I mean, let's be harsh but fair and say that happened because Talon lost it more than because Giant LYNX won it, I think is the thing that's fair to say. It's a weird composition, it didn't work out, and I mean, Giant LYNX did execute fairly nicely. You see first, they isolate Gagora on this high ground, get him out of the mech, out of the picture. The rest of the team isn't really in the fight right now. The tanks are absorbing really more pressure than they should be. Muse is already on half health there. Great placement on a biotic grenade, allows more kills to be opened up, and again, stops these people from actually entering the fight, actually contesting the point. At no point were Talon ever really in a 6 versus 6 situation here, and that was a big problem.
And I think A had a lot to do with it as well. This kind of defense which they're running again, they really need to be kind of completely full hold here, to be quite fair, because that's where you then don't have to make a bunch of swaps going on to B.
And the full hold nearly actually worked the first time around. It was just that one fight, that one most critical fight, in fact, for Giant LYNX.
And Giant LYNX starting out on the dive this time around, this is going to be much better for them. they do also have less time to work with, so it kind of evens itself out a little bit as well.
And we'll see here now if Talon can accomplish what they didn't quite manage last time with the defense, and that is to complete the full hold. No casualties just yet either side.
Keeping the high ground advantage, super important. Giant LYNX, ideally, they have two ways to play this, either to go for the dive on the high ground or force everyone into the low ground.
Yeah, that's a big boom, and eventually it finishes off Sergeant God. Yeah, it was a decent counter trade. Nice hack onto Apudo as well. Gonna keep the pressure on, but Luminous Haze also picked off. Now Rocket in a lot of trouble, may just go down, and in amongst all that, they can just raise Bashful, so no harm, no foul. Talon take the fight.
Huge amount of damage up will come out from Apudo right now. It's a bit of an understatement.
Look at this guy go.
A ton of kills. He's got Bob available as well. Giant LYNX full reset right out the gate. 2 minutes now remaining.
I feel like this is the first time we've really seen an Ashe absolutely go off. Apudo scoops up another one.
I definitely have to agree with that. It's the first Ashe that we've seen have this level of impact, where for Giant LYNX, they're just continually being shredded apart by Apudo, who is just so far ahead of everyone else right now. If you just consider how much damage he's done, how quickly he's gotten his ultimate, and how much Giant LYNX really have to start focusing him.
This team's got it all. Bashful and Ashful and Bob. Luminous A is already down to the android himself. Or is he a robot? I can't remember the difference.
An Omnic.
Yeah, but are they androids or robots?
Robots.
All right, I'll take your word for it. At any rate, Giant LYNX just kind of took the one casualty. We're happy to absorb the Bob and get back.
So this is where Giant LYNX had the opportunity to get the cap last time around. They're going to have to wait for one respawn from Sadistic, but other than that, EMP available. Nano Blade available. Defense as well. They can use the sound barrier to dive in. That's a lot of HP to clear through from Talon Esports. This tire from Bashful has to be absolutely disgusting, because otherwise Giant LYNX have the correct pieces to actually cap.
That's the thing. The ideal world for Talon here actually is somehow they get the EMP out of Sadistic and still win the fight. That would be ideal, but there's going to be the big commitment. Nano Blade, EMP. Oh, the tie shuts down Sergeant God. The self-destruct shuts down Luminous Ace. The only one to die was Apudo, who has just been raised back in. That was about as good as it could have got for Talon.
And I think that was super telegraphed from Giant LYNX as well. You could just see the long-range placement from Sadistic there on the translocator, just diving in. It was just so obvious in a way.
Yeah, super telegraphed, like the punchline of an American joke. Now Sergeant God eating himself some dynamite. That is not a healthy snack.
10 seconds remaining. Giant LYNX are just going to dive for the point now. Apudo unlikely to get really challenged here. He's going to have a field day just shooting anyone he wants.
And Bob's nearly back. That's going to be the real linchpin there. Luminous Ace down to a headshot. Here comes the Bob, the B.O.B. himself, as Panties takes a headshot. Rocket goes down. And again, Apudo just absolutely going off. Bashful the only casualty. Look, if there was risk of there being another fight, Bashful would get raised, but there is none. The full hold is complete. Talon have done it this time around, and now they need only get a third to close out the series. Indeed, actually, the series is already closed. Best case scenario for Giant LYNX is a tie, and that is still a series loss.
Yep, and the other part of this right now is, without wanting to close the book too early, I mean, I guess you've kind of said it, but technically the series has been taken, and we're 4 weeks in. Talon have played 3 total matches now, and Apudo's been in all 3 of those matches. He's been here, and we've made, we've said, look, this seems like a development for him as a player and a character, and also as in this team right now. It doesn't feel like the Apudo show, but what we are also seeing is when he's ready to put his carry pants on, when he's ready to really take control of a game, he's still the Apudo we remember from all that time back. Welcome back officially now into the Pacific region. That was the display of talent that we've been waiting for.
That's the thing. It's not the Apudo show anymore, but he does still get some feature episodes. That's the thing. We've seen him, now on those DPSs, but we've seen him come back mostly on things like the Zarya, who is, one of the bigger damage output points of the 3-3 compositions, but plays very differently, much more team-oriented. And this is such an evolution. Indeed, it's an evolution now of this team with this rebuilt roster, who I have to say are looking as threatening as ever.
Giant LYNX now looking for any consolation prize they can get in their hands. The Bastion defense now, the Widowmaker as well. This would be good against the dive. However, Talon Esports not going to be playing that. They're going to be playing the 3-3 with Bashful on top.
All right, well, that's Muse down. Gogora demeched as well, so it's a decent start here. Talon is still going to make a dive for the point, because They only need to get a third. Anything they get could still give them some headway, and they did actually get a couple of kills in there, but it is going to be rebuffed here by Giant LYNX.
That's actually a huge bait from Bashful. He waits for Rocket to go for the res, then takes Rocket down. The most important member is gone, and for Giant LYNX now they have a tank form available. But otherwise, Talon Esports, they do have the closer response. Kagura is actually rather bashful, is still in position to make another play.
Still plenty of time on the clock as well, really. Giant LYNX have got a long stretch ahead of them.
Giant LYNX have to have a perfect defense. If they let anything through, anything leaks on top of the point, they must immediately deal with it.
And you know, if they do get a perfect defense, that would be that consolation prize. To get a 6.5 minute perfect defense would be an achievement in its own right. The Symbiotic Grenade on the tank, Sadistic getting aggressive, does get CQB, so it's finally paid off. They're looking to get Gogora as well, so this is looking like going to be the second fight that Giant LYNX are poised to win. They do lose. Oh, now losing a couple of members. So with Gogora finally being finished off, Bashful still kind of being unanswered on the side here.
You can see he's specifically trying to find Rocket. If he can get Rocket down again, that's where Talon just find their opening. But now, as long as specifically Sadistic is alive and Rocket's there to back him up, Giant can continue holding.
And that's what they really need. Like, Talon are finally starting to get forced back with some of these aggressive plays. That's a nano boost, but a great sleep. It's Giant LYNX finding their feet a little bit here. Ooh, Sadistic does go down. They do have a res, but they need to actually have the time to go and collect that res.
And also the positioning. Rocket has to implicate himself to do so. And right now, there's a lot of Talon members attacking this point.
They got closer respawns. They're just flooding back in. They reckon with enough mounting pressure, eventually something's got to give. There was a grab that got eaten, though, out of a Puto. Sergeant God goes down, though. So Giant LYNX, they're actually in a 5 versus 6 here. The points pretty much nearly capped as well.
And the ults are starting to fly through as well. Expecting a whole hog any moment now.
Self-destruct does come in, but he commits the whole hog to make sure that they will not be a remake. They don't actually quite manage to succeed in preventing that, but Boombarab is still not long for this world, despite the remake. Nice shatter, nice finish off, nice third, nice series, nicely done, Talon. Well deserved.
Clean as you like. Everything about that map, except for the part where it actually went to time back, you'd have to say was probably the only part of this Horizon Lunar Colony that for Talon Esports wasn't ideal. If you want to really show off and close out a series and be dominant, you probably don't want to be there. But when we did get to time bank, it again just started to go the way we expected.
Yeah, clean but not quite squeaky clean, I suppose we could say.
Yeah, and it looks also good, but don't eat off it.
Yeah, it's also not over. Well, I mean, do eat off it, but maybe you'll need a call into work tomorrow. But at any rate, we're still not actually technically done with the series as well. So again, we have this opportunity for Talon to just, you know, as we've seen mostly throughout the series, maintain that control. Indeed, if anything, show that the initial phase of Assault there was the one-off. That was the fluke. That was not quite in full control, and now we're back in full control, and we're going to 4-0. Yeah,
and the other part of that is when you start seeing Giant LYNX, you know, attempting, making an attempt number 2. This time around, it's, you know, it's read much better by Talon Esports. It's saying, look, we don't think you can get this off twice in a row. We don't think that if you do this a second time that it's going to work. And rightfully so, it did not work in Giant LYNX's favor. Talon Esports able to complete that whole less time in general, but also Giant LYNX realized what they needed to do quicker as well. So that kind of balances out for both sides. Realistically speaking, even if Giant get that A cap and they move on to B, maybe they don't have enough time to cap. 6 minutes and 30 for Talon Esports is so overwhelming.
Yeah.
You don't see a world where in that amount of time, they don't just fully finish the map again.
That's the thing, they capped in what, 128?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be surprised if they capped the second time in under 2 minutes again. Like, that's the difference in caliber between these two teams. You see it writ large in that time. There's no better metric. And again, these seem like very harsh words, but there's a point where you can't dress it up any other way. This is a good organization with a good team of good players that has always fielded fairly good teams, at least, you know, for the longest time in recent memory, coming up against a team that is unfortunately at the bottom of the tables, having yet to pick up a win made up of 2 constituent teams who themselves stayed at the bottom of the tables in their respective groups, did not pick up wins. This is exactly what you would expect to happen when these two teams meet.
Yeah, and this was not going to be, we knew this wasn't going to be an easy series for Giant LYNX. They knew that as well. They knew that their best shot was versus Kicks, and that was a bit of a wasted opportunity on their side. And they're still kind of just cruising along in this tournament so far, waiting for their next opportunity. Talon's not going to be that opportunity. I think all parties were pretty complicit in understanding that fact before they even got it.
And now the situation I suppose we're in really, you sort of mentioned it partway through Horizon Lunar Colony, but Giant Lynx right now are looking for consolation prizes. They're looking for anything that speaks well of them. And I would actually say, to some extent, that defense did actually speak well of them. Where on the initial phase of Horizon Lunar Colony they got absolutely steamrolled, they did actually put a decent fight up in the second phase. They won a couple of good fights there. They held off Talon for quite a long time. Again, it did just sort of seem that with the closer respawns, like Talon could just kind of keep throwing themselves at it with all the DPSs, and eventually they'd break through, which is largely what happens. But you've got to give credit where it is due for Giant Lynx. They did still play well in areas.
And there's still one opportunity remaining. Look, Junkertown is coming up next. And this is something that for Giant Lynx they can maybe still take away if things go really well for them, or if Talon kind of take their foot off the pedal here, or something goes quite wrong for Talon, which wouldn't be impossible. But as we've seen so far, the mistakes have been few and far in between, and even when they have happened, it's not been like Giant Lynx has definitely capitalized every single time. It's been kind of here or there. You'd say the only part so far that realistically speaks to that is University. Now, couple maps back, 3 maps ago, and now 4th map deep in the tournament, in the series rather, it's seemingly less and less likely to happen.
I mean, I'd almost forgotten about University, right? Like, that's how different every other part of this series has been so far. That's actually the outlier. That one there is the anomaly. And, well, look, Giant Lynx, maybe they're just looking to create more anomalous map wins. Like, that's something. It's better than nothing, even if it feels like it maybe shouldn't be there. Look, you'll still take it. Consolation prizes, as we say.
I think it might be time for a yo-ho-ho with a bottle of rum or something, because Talon Esports currently looking like they want to play the pirate ship. Giant Lynx now going on the double sniper for the defense, which means I'm fairly certain both teams should be looking to lock in snipers for this opening part of Junkertown.
I'm spotting the payload.
Do what you want, as they say. Setting up, hoisting the Jolly Roger. And now they are underway. The privateers indeed. Giant Lynx slowly getting encroached upon.
So what we're looking for here is the halt hook combo from both sides. That's what's really going to kick things off. And Talon Esports have had a huge amount of push so far. Giant Lynx have given up all the space.
That's a decent hold. They're just trying to get the damage in. Biotic grenade to keep everyone topped off, and Rocket, the first casualty. I mean, very quickly the levy starts to break here. Good snipe onto NN, but it's all they've really managed to pick up here, unfortunately, with Surgeon God on that Widowmaker. Talon, I don't really know that the card ever stopped.
It's a juggernaut on the sea against a fleet of dinghies or something. Giant Lynx got
Man of War.
Really nothing going on here. Surgeon God got that one pick at something. Did get res back in very quickly. If you're Talon right now, you probably stick on this composition. In fact, they are. They're pushing forward with the Bashes, sitting up early on the high ground as someone on the bottom is going to continue pushing.
Just looking to set up shop while they wait for that cart to get back underway. They do get displaced by the Dragon Strike. That is a reasonable use of that, but they're not really in a position to capitalize on it. They're still piling up into a choke point. That's what Talon want to do. Now they're just setting up back on the cart.
And by the way, Muse has not stopped pushing this entire time. He's getting progress, and Giant Lynx are not winning on any fronts.
I really like them actually using this Bastion ultimate to regain that space so that the Bastion can get back on the cart. They only needed to get the one kill. All the rest were just kind of forced back by sheer threat of death and damage. And that's Talon, again, just very cleanly keeping the push going without ever really breaking a sweat.
And very conservative with the ultimates as well. You can even see their CQB just farming some extra damage, because why not? And Talon Esports continue rolling on through. They've not been pressured enough to even use the extra ultimates.
Yeah, this is getting really rough for Giant Lynx. Self-destruct does get thrown in, but it's not in a great spot to get any kills. Bashful sets back up. He is absolutely pumped full of juice and heals. There's no displacement. He's throwing out the emote.
And I think the timing was interesting as well. Giant Lynx didn't actually push out with the self-destruct. If that's the play they want to make, yes, throw your Diva on top of the cart. Yes, use the ultimate. Where's the rest of the team? Why is Giant Lynx also afraid of the self-destruct? They could have been pushing. They did not.
And I mean, having come up against this pirate ship now moving into point 3, I bet Giant Lynx wish they were in Sherbrooke now. This is really rough. And Talon, I mean, look at how far forward they're set up here. Completely unanswered, completely unpunished, and they can't still move this whole time.
And this is where Giant LYNX caught in a really bad spot. What do they do here? Do they go for the card? If they do that, Bashful shreds them up. If they go for Bashful, what are they doing about the card? How do they address two separate threats right now that they don't currently have a single answer for?
And look at this, using the rotating platform to set up to get an even nastier firing line now that the cart is close enough to warrant this. Because again, the cart's not been stopped and the bastion's not been answered.
Giant need a different composition.
Gross. This is really, really bizarre. It's going to be a nano boost coming out. Not a lot coming out for it. Bastion ult committed. Self-destruct picks up Luminous A's. Panties is going to go down. And Bashful is just firing off over and over and over. Finally goes down. He'll get rezzed in a second here. And they've nearly finished the cap.
And Giant LYNX, the good news is, right now, I say that, but Bashful's going up high ground again. So they do still need to deal with high ground, but his composition's not working. The grab has to be huge, but I don't think he can catch enough with the grab for it to be game-winning.
I mean, this is still so much damage.
Oh, Panty's just taking it into his own hands.
Oh man, he's going to get punished hard for that, I dare say. He goes down. There will be another res committed onto Bashful. They've got the time, they've got the space to do it. It's just... No, can't quite find it. Okay, maybe no res. Bashful's actually going to go ahead and come back on a Tracer instead, which does make a lot of sense, but Talon is still the ones putting on the pressure here.
As the broadside cannon's out now, Supercharger down, Talon Esports, Nano Boost available as well.
Oh, right on top of Bashful as well. Just keeping the supports at bay, even going to pick up Panties, and yeah, finishing off Sergeant God's grab. That's a tasty snack. And Giant LYNX, it feels like they're just buying time, and, you know, our crack 4-pounders made an awful din, but with one fat ball, the Yanks stove us in. That's what this feels like. And that's going to be it for Talon. The pirate ship is going to cross the line. Yo ho ho, indeed.
Just kind of sails into harbor and
ship rolls into harbor, carrying victory.
Carrying all the gold. What's funny about this map is you get to the end of it and it's just this
actually is a lot of gold. Yeah.
Mountains of gold.
It's the pirate's dream. It's very thematic, I feel.
Even the card is just piles of gold. But
just lots of money. Surprisingly rich for how
I was gonna say
terrible
town of junk,
looks.
but they're really well off actually.
Can't use the word, but this place is a something kind of hole, and well, presumably they have a lot of.
You
know
nice
what?
hole.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Nice
it is a nice hole. It is not. It's a nasty hole. But the Queen of Junkertown is the one who presumably has all that gold. So like, I feel like we're in a real 1% situation here. Like, this is obviously the rest of the 99% of Junkertown.
So like a lot of monarchies that have existed.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Junkertown is really just like most places. It's my hot take.
Every monarchy has just been where the monarch's really rich and no one else is.
It's not even always just the monarchy. It's that's actually not true. So there was like a time where the King of France was like dirt poor and in massive amounts of debt. So it's not always quite so cut and dry. They recovered. They're doing all right now.
Yeah.
It was like
modern day France is.
It's like 600 years ago. So
be safe to say they bounced back.
Yeah, they pulled it off. You know, real comeback tour for France.
Giant LYNX though, comeback is still.
They're in a lot of debt right now.
And work in progress.
No pirate ship for them.
Apudo's back on Ash, so feeling good about that.
Yeah.
Sadistic might be in a bit of trouble based on how Apudo played last map.
This is mirrored. This is mirrored team compositions.
This is the kind of double sniper I wanted to see because it doesn't involve the Hanzo. It's got two just long range.
What do you have
hit
against
scans.
Hanzo?
Nothing. I'm just saying like this version has more hit scans.
Yeah, that is completely fair.
I'm not projectile-less, I'm just saying.
Just saying, it's more reliable damage output with hit scan. Like
especially when Apudo's playing.
Oh,
wow.
Man, that was so close.
It's good response. So you are seeing now Giant LYNX properly addressing Apudo, especially on a map like this where you can do so.
Sergeant God does go down nonetheless. Traded back though. No res on the side of Talon, but there is one on the side of Giant LYNX that could be a big factor. There it is, res on Sadistic.
The bio names from CQB have been landing perfectly as well. Giant LYNX on the back foot.
And Apudo picks up the other. So again, just really brilliant play. Panties is still going to go down.
Bashful going to live?
Not quite. Rocket's going to get that kill credit there, but I mean, the damage has been done. Giant LYNX are absolutely bleeding from the mouth here.
And this is where Bob's going to be available really soon. Just look at the damage output difference between him and Sadistic right now. And I know it's kind of biased because Talon are also winning, and when you're winning, you're usually ahead in ultimates. But you're on a stage where Sergeant God, because he's done something, he's got the infra side available, which should give the snipers on his team a bit of an edge.
Hey, what do you call a man with no arms and no legs floating in the water? Never mind the joke, because Aputo's dead now. Punchline was Bob, but we ain't going to see him.
Not yet. Not from Aputo just yet anyway. This is opportunity for Giant LYNX, and Aputo dies in a place where he can't really get rezzed. Talon Esports kind of just waiting for all their spawners to come back and using a bunch of ultimates now.
Just waiting. I'm just waiting for someone to die, right? Like, I feel like that's what this is. It looks like it's actually going to be Gogora. No, it's not. Gogora gets healed up. Aputo's back in the fight. That means Bob is again going to be a factor here, potentially. Wow, nice headshot on Bashful, though. Gogora remix and immediately commits a self-destruct. Immediately picks up 2 kills. Bob's going to come out as well to keep the payload on lockdown. This puts a lot of pressure on these few remaining members of Giant LYNX, who are largely going to go down. Looks like the Aputo show, despite being briefly cancelled, is going to be brought back on the air.
And the thing is, Sergeant God's doing his darndest right now. He's really trying to put his take his game, or keep his team in the game, I should probably say here. Double headshots from him, and it's kind of got Giant LYNX in a space where they maybe could have edged that fight up. But because Talon Esports was so far ahead in ultimates, they cash in on everything. They delay the point so far. They just make sure a lot of time is wasted, so much so that Talon get Aputo back into the game. And once Aputo's back into the game, well, you see how much damage he's got.
Luminous Ace took a huge chunk of damage, immediately got healed up and popped down the supercharger, barely survived. And Aputo headshotting out Sergeant God right as Sadistic throws out his version of Bob. One of them did something and the other one didn't. Bashful getting some headshots in here as well. Oh, nice body block on the Dynamite, but still going to be a lot of damage eaten by Bombarapa, and Aputo's going to get out alive.
It's going to get a second Bob as well. Talon Esports this time around, holding onto all the cars, not losing the members, and have more ultimates coming on.
We've had one Bob, but what about second Bob? It's going to be a whole hog first. That's a fair meal. Hook it on in and he just walks away.
I think Giant LYNX kind of bit off a bit more they could chew on that one.
They're going to swap. They're completely swapping.
And I think this is kind of a smart idea because you're in a sort of space where technically nothing's really worked too well against Talon Esports, but when you're trying to go up head-to-head on snipers and that's not really going your way, back onto 3-3 goats might be the way to go instead.
I mean, there's still a lot to fight through, that's the thing, and especially a lot of area control. First, it's the supercharger. That's going to allow for 1 kill already on Panties. There's going to be Bob for the extra area control of the payload. Big pop-up on Bombarapa means he's going to go down here. Self-destruct layered forward just to cut off any respawners, any reinforcements. Sergeant God is that. It's going to be the hold completed for Talon.
And the victory completed for Talon as well. The 4-0 completed for Talon. Not just in the series, but also in the tournament as well. They are still the leaders. They are still #1. They are still right at the top. All 4 match victories, all 4 maps claimed.
All 4 Robbie Rottens are #1. That is indeed what we expected out of this series. You see it now writ large in the score line. And I mean, what more is there really to say about this? This is Talon now maintaining that top of the table as they move past their halfway point of this particular tournament. This is their rebuild season, and they're already off to a hot start. Look, they're all but guaranteed to make the playoffs at this point. I'm pretty sure they could still lose their next 3 games and make it.
4-3, you'd get in.
And there's still a very real opportunity that they could actually finish in the top 2 just by winning 1 or 2 of their next couple of matches, and the other team's not quite picking up the same critical mass of wins because of how many wins have been traded among the other teams right now. Talon are the only undefeated team.
We are also not only seeing that, but the fact that teams like Nova MS that you'd expect to be very high up in terms of strength and also standings are starting to look shakier than usual. Cyclone Coupling still haven't really sorted out their roster issues. Global Esports is probably the next team that really is that team to beat for Talon Esports. I know next week it's going to be Nova MS first, and I was having some doubts about Talon's ability to maybe win that one, but after watching both those teams play today, Talon Esports look by far the better team.
And I mean, I guess that's the other story of tonight, right, has been Nova MS, who feel like, I don't know, maybe this is a